The
Thank
chair
you,
now
Chair.
recognizes Congresswoman Luria.
Well, thank you. And General McKenzie, I'd like to start with a quote that you made. You said the proximate causes for the establishment of CENTCOM nearly 40 years ago was Iran, and today Iran is no less of a threat to American interest or the stability of the region than it was in 1979. To the contrary, the threat posed by Iran is graver than ever. So I'd like to ask you, from a perspective of CENTCOM, how is the United States and our allies prepared to respond to this threat from Iran?
So the actual operational expression of the Iranian threat is in the vast improvements in their ballistic missile, their land attack cruise missile, and their small unmanned aerial vehicle platforms, which over the last 5 to 7 years have dramatically increased both in number and in accuracy and ability to fly in relatively undetected ways. All of that directly threatens the immediate partners.
So the 5 to 7 years, what year did we enter into the JCPOA? It's about that time frame?
About that time frame,
So I just wanted to shift, and maybe we can have a more thorough conversation on the first part of the question. But so if the United States returns to the JCPOA, what impact do you foresee that having on Iran's regional activities? What impact on the flow of additional resources to the Houthis, to Hezbollah, to Hamas, and their actions in the region against the United States, Israel, and our allies?
So I will note, the principal foreign policy objective we have vis-a-vis Iran is for them not to possess a nuclear weapon. So a JCPOA would presumably give that assurance.
The current agreement has allowed them to have additional resources to fund these proxy organizations.
So I believe that what they do with their ballistic missiles, their proxies and other things are not necessarily coupled directly to the JCPOA. But I will acknowledge that there could be second-order effects of that. I do not know what the terms of the pending JCPOA will be. I just don't have that information.
So perhaps I'll turn to Ms. Baker, and I really don't think it's a disputed fact by the fact that we've eased pressure, we've lifted sanctions. Iran has more resources, and those resources are flowing to these proxy groups and terrorist organizations throughout the region. So if a nuclear deal is reached with Iran, I think that it's likely that Tehran will use a significant part of those associated sanctions reliefs to attack Israel and support these terrorist proxies. Are we open to supplying Israel with additional security assistance and other support in light of this potential situation?
Congresswoman, our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. We consult with them on a near daily basis.
Are they at the table in the negotiations for the JCPOA right now?
Congresswoman, the department, of course, does not have the lead on those negotiations, but my understanding is the Israelis are not at the table. We do consult with them regularly, and we are in regular conversations about how we can better bolster their security in the region.
So if we consult with them regularly, have they expressed concerns over the pending re-entry into the Iran deal?
I think this is a subject of active conversation, and I don't know that there's a unified opinion on that. That being said, we are committed to their security. We are committed to giving them the equipment, the capabilities that they need, the QME that we've committed to.
Okay, so I'll shift back to General McKenzie, and I wanted to ask, why hasn't there been a more forceful U.S. response to Iran's aggression against our allies and our troops in the region? For example, we just saw this strike this weekend towards Erbil in the vicinity of the U.S. consulate, and Iran directly took responsibility for that strike.
Ma'am, I'd like to talk about that in the closed session if I could, and I'll be prepared to go into great detail. I would tell you that I think our response has been measured, balanced. After the strike on UAE by the Houthis, we deployed a 5th-generation fighter squadron to Al Dhafra Air Force Base. I sent a ballistic missile-capable destroyer to UAE's waters, and we've done a variety of other things to enhance their protection. So sometimes it doesn't require an immediate kinetic response in order to show a measured response that assures our partners and allies.
So has our current policy of not having a 1.0 continuous carrier presence in the Gulf, have you seen any change in Iran's activities due to that? And do you think a carrier in the Gulf is essential for a deterrent? And lastly, balancing that versus the need for that asset within the 7th Fleet AOR or for PACOM. Can you?
So as I think about deterring Iran, I don't think in terms of individual platforms. I think in terms of the holistic capabilities of the joint force, land-based air, carrier-based air, and so one's up, one's down. We have other uses for those carriers. They can't be everywhere, but we do innovative things. We bring bomber task forces in from the United States. There are a variety of things I can display to ensure the Iranians know that we have the capability to defend ourselves and to punish them if they continue their malign activities.
Right. So in your assessment, these shore-based squadrons are providing essentially you as the combatant commander the same equivalent capability as a deterrent?
Yes, and other capabilities as well beyond that.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you,